Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
The IDF has just released a report revealing what really led to the downing of an Israeli F-16 fighter jet by a Syrian anti-aircraft missile. And here's what's interesting. It looks like an error of judgment by the crew was a culprit rather than negligent behavior. The pilot and navigator allegedly acted according to the wrong priorities when they decided to guide a missile that they had fired instead of flying lower as soon as the missile had locked on. The Israeli Air Force has already absorbed the lessons of the investigation into training, and now the details will be presented to the public. This report comes just a day after the pilot who ejected himself from the plane walked out of an Israeli hospital in, quote, good condition. A miracle since he had been seriously wounded. The incident came amid a round of intense hostilities between Israel, Iran, and Syria after an Iranian drone infiltrated Israeli airspace from a launch base in Syria. The whole affair triggered Israeli airstrikes against Iranian targets in Syria. According to the New York Times, Iran is operating 10 military bases in Syria with up to 20,000 fighters. The Islamic Republic is reportedly training militias loyal to President Bashar Assad's regime for a possible battle with Israel. And two of the key training facilities are actually just near the border with Israel. The Israeli government has vowed to take every action necessary to combat the Iranian threat. The Secretary General of the United Nations is expressing major concern that a direct confrontation is about to break out between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah movement. Tensions have been rising between the two sides, with Lebanon accusing Israel of violating its sovereignty by building a new security fence on the border. And Israel is accusing Hezbollah of increasing its weapons arsenal for war against the Jewish state. Now Hezbollah is threatening to act against Israeli oil facilities following an offshore energy dispute between Israel and Lebanon. The terror group has positioned itself as Lebanon's defense against the Jewish state, saying it will destroy Israel's offshore gas platforms if the Jewish state strikes Lebanon in any way. This comes after Lebanon issued an offshore oil and gas exploration tender for two areas along the country's maritime border with Israel, leading to a war of words with Jerusalem. The Israeli government has laid claims to one of the fields in question, drawing sharp condemnation from Lebanese officials. Lebanon claims it will start exploratory offshore drilling in 2019 and will assert its rights along its maritime territories. A finding in the country's southernmost waters could lead to a dispute with Israel, which is already developing several offshore gas deposits nearby. Schools throughout Israel are taking extra precaution and preparing for potential rocket attacks. Search and rescue drills are being held across the country as tensions escalate for Israel on its northern and southern fronts. Today, the IDF Home Front Command, the Education Ministry, and local authorities are holding a series of drills for Israeli youth. Officials will simulate a scenario of a missile firing in every school, setting off an alarm signal that the students must learn to properly obey. The head of IDF operations, Major General Nitzan Alon, says the year 2018 has a potential for military conflict because of a, quote, gradual deterioration of relations. Israel is continuing to trade attacks with terrorists in the Gaza Strip, and war with Iran and its Lebanese proxy Hezbollah seems more likely than ever. Palestinian activists and journalists alike have launched a campaign against Facebook after the social media giant decided to remove dozens of pages that were reportedly inciting and glorifying terrorism. The protesters are claiming that Facebook is waging a war on the Palestinians and have launched the hashtag #FBFightsPalestine in protest. According to the Palestinians, the crackdown got even stronger after the killing of a Hamas terrorist who was part of the cell that killed Rabbi Raziel Shevach in the West Bank last month. The terrorist, Ahmed Jarrar, was shot down in a shootout on February 6, and since then the activists claim Israel has temporarily suspended more than 50 private and public posts glorifying his life. Earlier this week, Facebook also removed the Hamas-affiliated page Palestine.net and the page Palestine27 for sharing a photo of Jarrar. Israel has long accused Facebook of facilitating Palestinian incitement against Israelis, but in the past, the social media platform has dismissed the claim. Now it looks like that's changing. The Shin Bet Security Service has reportedly just arrested 6 Palestinians from 2 separate Islamic Jihad cells in the West Bank, one of which was allegedly plotting to kill the Israeli defense minister. The cell members were planning on placing a bomb on the road in which Lieberman's convoy was set to travel on. The second busted Islamic Jihad cell was planning on conducting shooting attacks against Israeli soldiers and civilians in the West Bank. The cell members reportedly come from villages near Bethlehem, and the two leaders of the cell, Awad Mahmoud and Muhammad Askara, both have served time in Israeli jails for their involvement in terror. The Shin Bet says the operatives reached out to terror groups in Gaza in order to get explosives, but when they realized it wouldn't be possible, they decided to make a fake explosive device with the hopes of getting recognition. This isn't the first time a terror cell has been suspected of planning to assassinate Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman. During Operation Protective Edge, Hamas planned to fire a rocket-propelled grenade at the then Foreign Minister's convoy. The attack was also foiled.
That's all for now. I'm Natasha Kirchak, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.